thanks for taking the time to watch this week's Oldtown short. There's a sweet man at our church. His name's Steve, and he loves the band Journey. Now, during in-person worship, whenever he would hear someone say the word journey, even if it was me in the pulpit, he would quickly reply, "Don't stop believing." Sometimes it's hard to just keep believing, isn't it? I wonder, have you ever tried to do something and when it didn't work, you gave up? Or have you ever stopped believing something because it didn't go the way you planned? Well, there's a story about a group of friends out in a boat. They're traveling to another city to meet up with someone, and mid-journey, a storm comes. The winds blow and the waves crash over the bow. The friends do all that they can to keep one another safe and their boat afloat. Well, they end up spending all night amid the waves. And by morning, they're exhausted and frustrated. But they're alive. And the boat is still intact. In the mist of the morning, just as the sun is beginning to rise, one of them spots something off in the far distance, coming across the water towards them. Was it another boat that had weathered the storm along with them? Was it a fisherman out for his early morning catch? Or was it some kind of a mirage or a sea creature? As the figure comes closer, they realize that it's not a boat or a fisherman or a sea creature. It was a person. A person walking on the water. Now, could that be? Well, the friends couldn't believe what they were seeing. And because they didn't understand, they became afraid. They decided it must be a ghost. But suddenly, the man walking on the water calls out to them saying, "Don't worry, guys, it's me." Peter, one of the friends in the boat, realizes that it's Jesus, the one that they were going to meet. You see, they'd been following Jesus, and Jesus had been teaching them things. They had seen him do all kinds of amazing things. So somewhere, deep in his heart, Peter believed. And he knew that it was him. Peter called out to Jesus saying, "Hey, if that's really you, let me come out and walk with you on the water." Now, I don't know about you, but that would not have been my choice. But Jesus says, "Peter, come on out." Now, Peter has enough faith to trust what his eyes are seeing. And though he's just as tired and frustrated as everyone else, he looks through his fear and his exhaustion to the Jesus that he knows. He's seen Jesus do amazing things before. So when Jesus says, "Come," Peter steps out of the boat onto the water and begins walking to Jesus. Now we all know what happens next, right? This is the part everyone loves to talk about. Peter fails. He looks away. He gets distracted. He gets nervous, and he starts to sink. The truth is, we are human, and it happens to all of us. Friends, if you try to live a faithful life, if you trust God enough to step out of the boat, sometimes you'll get distracted. Sometimes you'll get nervous. Sometimes you will even start to sink. It will happen. But when it happens, remember to be like Peter. Because Peter doesn't give up and swim back to the boat. No, he reaches forward saying, Jesus, help me. And then, in that moment, even his failure becomes an act of faith. What happens to Peter in today's story isn't a warning about what happens when you lack faith. On the contrary, Peter is an example of what it looks like to have abundant faith. Why do you think Jesus eventually said that Peter was the rock? Because he was an example of what real faith looks like. Now, the truth is, Peter tends to get a bad rap in this story, being labeled as the one who wavered in his faith. But I bet that Peter remembered that day for the rest of his life as the day he walked on water. Friends, please don't stop believing, but also remember that sometimes having faith means stepping out of your comfort zone and out of the boat that you're in.